Welcome to the Voice of the Coast. I am your host, Danica Foley-Long, and with me, we have Superintendent Dr. Teresa Bagwell here with St. Mary Parish Schools. So, of course, most of our conversation is likely going to be talking about COVID. It's a new year. I think we're getting more and more used to this. There's a lot of things that you've kind of had to change. You've had to kind of, tweak some things from last year and the year before. 2021, school is in session, day 4. What's the progress report?
So schools returned on Friday, August 6th, and the progress report is that our kids are adapting to wearing masks. They're doing so much more easily, I think, than the general public. I think they're accustomed to it. Teachers, while it's difficult to teach in a mask, they understand the necessity of it. And honestly, it is an inconvenience, but it's an inconvenience that's so critical to the health and welfare of everybody in our community.
Right. Now let's talk about our 5-year-olds. Many of our 5-year-olds are headed to kindergarten. This is their first time that they've ever had to place a mask on their face because many of them did not go to Head Start. Head Start was actually shut down. So the concern, I think, among some parents and some public is that their children, very, very small, they've seen mom, dad, grandparents wear masks. Now it's their turn to do it. How much discipline does it take for a 5-year-old to keep a mask on her face, his face, for so long, throughout the day, a school day?
I mean, I think it's certainly an adjustment for our littlest kids. Last year, the mask mandate was for 3rd through 12th grade. This year, our kindergartners through 2nd graders are wearing a mask at school for the very first time. So it definitely is an adjustment. I think that with our teachers modeling the wearing of the mask, and like you said, parents modeling wearing of masks, the kids think of it as, the big boy or the big girl world. And so they're more open to the idea. Certainly during playtime and all of that, the mask is a difficult thing to maneuver, but our kids do get breaks when they go out for recess. They're outdoors, so the mask can be adjusted to give them that time. I think in any set of circumstances, when anything new is implemented, there is an adjustment period, but I also think our kids have shown a definite resiliency to all the drastically new changes they've had to implement over the last couple of years.
And I have to play devil's advocate here because I think about 5-year-olds, and even when I was 5, you take your mask off, and I'm kind of a germaphobe, but you take your mask off, no, that's my mask. Or you drop it on the ground, no, that's mine, I'm picking it back up, put it on my face. I'm sure that's something your teachers have to be aware of.
Yes, okay. Definitely. Yes, I can see kids going, let me trade mask. I like your mask better, yes.
Oh, you got a Spider-Man, I got He-Man, you have Batman. Oh, yeah, definitely. So I'm sure that's something that has been talked about, you guys are aware of.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, the first day, one of the things that we made schools aware of is just to be very vigilant about enforcing the COVID restrictions because it was something that was new. It was something that was re-implemented. It's hard to keep kids socially distanced. So even though they practiced it last year and we had experience last year, it was important for us to be highly vigilant and make sure that people felt comfortable being back in school again, following those safety guidelines.
What are those safety guidelines when they enter school? Because there's still the setup, correct? You have the temperature checkers. Do you still have that in place?
No, that is the only thing we don't have this year. Okay. The only difference between last year and this year is that there are no daily temp checks. However, there are wellness checks as the students enter the building, and any student who, expresses they don't feel well or is shown to not, be feeling so well, they're actually isolated. They're put off into a separate room so that the nurse has a chance to check them and contact parents if that's needed. The students, when they enter the building, they come in, they get their breakfast, they go to their classroom or some other area that the school has stipulated. Most of them go straight to the classroom, and they're maintained in those small groups and socially distanced for the remainder of the day.
And there are some hand washing protocols. I mean, they have to take part in hand washing sessions. Like you have to go at different times of the day?
Yeah, basically when they come in, the first thing they do is wash their hands. They wash their hands, they grab their breakfast, and they go on to their class. Before lunch, again, another set of hand washing. Before they leave, another set of hand washing. If they go outside and play on the playground, they come back in, they hand wash again. Now, you can intertwine that with some use of hand sanitizer, but the hand sanitizer should not be the only thing that you rely upon.
Okay. Of course, this is kind of our COVID edition, and we're going to talk more about it, but I also want to know just how is school trying to get back to normal, normalizing a regular school year. And we're going to talk about that L word, lockdown. We'll talk about that coming up next right here on The Voice of the Coast. Welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. I'm here with Dr. Teresa Bagwell, the Superintendent of St. Mary Parish Schools. Now, of course, I alluded to the L word. I know it may be on your minds, maybe not, maybe just on my mind. Do you anticipate maybe a lockdown coming sometime in the near future? I know we just started school, but kind of the same thing happened last year.
Honestly, no, I really don't. Not unless things just drastically plummet. I don't think that that's something that our state wants to do again. I don't think, unless it served a specific purpose and, it was for the absolute safety and wellness of the community, I don't see that happening. I'm really hoping that through the mask mandate and through people being more conservative about how they do their daily lives and, monitor themselves, I really hope that our numbers start to decline.
Yeah. Now, speaking of decline, I'm going to jump right into LEAP scores because a lot of our kids were virtual last year. And we talked about this on the show about how effective is virtual and versus in-person instruction. And I think for both of us, I think in-classroom instruction is worlds above, going to class virtually. I think even as an adult, I don't think we really appreciate being in person versus online. So do you think that played a role in why the numbers don't look so good with our LEAP scores?
Well, I think there were multiple factors that played into the decline in LEAP scores. Definitely the implementation of a virtual setting. Virtual settings are awesome. They have their place in education, but they can't be the replacement for the classroom. There is no way to mimic all of the conversational learning that happens in a classroom in a virtual environment. There are people who learn wonderfully in a virtual environment, but unfortunately they're the minority because it is so isolationary. As we move forward, the decline in scores was documented at the state level. They actually broke out the districts who were in virtual learning for longer periods of time, or students that were identified as being virtual longer periods of time, and how that impacted their overall score. You also have to consider that our schools closed in March, early March, and they didn't reopen fully to in-person learning until the end of September. So a student had roughly 6 months of no classroom instruction. So certainly, especially for your younger kids who take the LEAP test, that played into their ability to grow and progress to that actual grade level at the end of the school year. And I think the distractionary effect of COVID had an impact. It was easy for students to divert their attention throughout the course of the school year because there were constant rumors of shutdown or, possible shutdowns or, I'm going to be quarantined because I was with my friend after school and they got COVID. So there was a lot in interplay in the last school year, but I'm going to tell you, we take those results very seriously, and we're working right now to institute some quality interventions for our kids so that not only do they have the class time, but they also have intervention periods scheduled within their regular school day beyond the normal after-school tutoring that we have.
And this kind of begs the question, are we really teaching a true fourth grader? Are we really teaching a true ninth grader? Are they really caught up?
And the answer to that is no. Clearly no. There's no way for a student to pick up 6 months of time as they correspondingly are learning at that grade level. I've talked to principals and teachers, and they're very distraught over test results. And you have to understand they gave a lot last year to make our learning continue. So I've told them, you're not really teaching a 5th grader, you're teaching a 4.5 grader.
Yeah. And let's talk about teachers when we get back. We have to take another break, but let's talk about how this is affecting them. We've talked about the students, but how are the teachers? Are they excited? Are they nervous? Are they, a little anxious about what to look forward to in the new year? So come on back right here on The Voice of the Coast. Welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. Again, I'm your host, Danica. With me, we have Dr. Teresa Bagwell, the Superintendent of Schools in St. Mary Parish. I said I wanted to talk about the teachers, and let's get right to it because, of course, we worry about our little ones. We worry about their safety and just their emotional learning. So I'm kind of talking about now you have some new positions that have opened as the social emotional learning coach. These are new positions, like this is something totally new. This is not just a counselor or guidance. This is somebody who has a new position, and because of the pandemic, right? This came about because of the pandemic, and some of those positions have been filled. What does that person do? What are the duties and responsibilities of a social emotional learning coach?
So the social emotional learning coach was one of the things that we added to our district as part of our ESSER funding. And it was intended to reach more of addressing the whole child and the effect that the pandemic had on children. So our social emotional learning coaches are assigned to all of our schools who do not have a guidance counselor on staff.
Okay.
And so their primary role is to help address those social emotional needs of kids that cannot be addressed necessarily in a regular classroom setting, or just to provide support, not only to the kids, but to the teachers and the staff members in terms of their emotional support going through this pandemic. We have instituted a social emotional learning program in all of our elementary schools. So for 25 minutes a day, our kids are taking social emotional learning lessons. And then those coaches will go in and help model for teachers. They also do some kind of check-in, check-outs with kids who, just come to school and, are a little off, to pull the kid aside and say, hey, what's going on? So that when they get to class, they can direct all of their attention to math or English or social studies or science.
So this position will be around for a long time?
It will be around, it's funded through ESSER, so it will be around for the 3 years of the ESSER funding. And then after that, we'll reevaluate and see if it's such a critical position, which I think it is, that we will be able to fund it some other way.
This is where we are. This is our new normal. So we talked a couple of interviews ago about hiring new teachers and teachers leaving and going to the college recruiting, what are they? To recruit college students, graduates, to become new teachers and teach here in St. Mary Parish. And I remember you said, we don't get a lot, that come out of college and want to come to St. Mary Parish. We were talking in terms of the salary, but we didn't do too bad. We got about 15 newbies, fresh out of college, who are teaching within St. Mary Parish. The question is, because of where we are right now, this is their first time teaching. They're getting experience in a pandemic world. What happens, when these teachers go on towards retirement years from now, and just the evolution of teaching, of education? Do we ever go back to the normal? What happens from here? They came in, we all had masks. What happens maybe 3, 4, 5 years? Are we going to still be in masks? Or are we going to go back to pre-pandemic?
So first of all, if you're a newbie teacher, you don't know teaching in any other thing but the pandemic.
Yeah.
So this is really not a new set of circumstances for you because you've never taught before. I do think what will happen is there will be a modification of teaching strategies that will incorporate both the in-person and the virtual world. I think you have to do that. I think you have to be able to transition in and out fairly easily, because we do have emergency circumstances that are irrelative of the pandemic. We have hurricanes in Louisiana. So you could literally shut down a school for a week or two. Well, how great is it that you would be able to flip to a virtual world? Now, for a teacher, that is not easily accomplished. Teaching face-to-face and your strategies and the things that you do in the classroom, you cannot mimic necessarily in a virtual world. So you have to see how to adapt. So flipping the switch for a teacher is not easy. For a new teacher, though, I think that they will definitely benefit from coming in these challenging times, because it will only get easier from here.
Well, that's very optimistic. Good to know. We're going to take a break, but come on back right here on The Voice of the Coast. Here we go. Welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. Dr. Teresa Bagwell is my guest, and let's talk about the school functions. Of course, sporting events. Big deal. Outdoor versus indoor. Are there mask mandates for indoor and outdoor?
There are definitely mask mandates for indoor activities. So anyone attending a volleyball game, for example, they will be required to wear a mask. And of course to socially distance, but I think people are pretty accustomed to that. For the outdoor events, there are, refinements to the mask mandate. Certainly the safety protocol would be to wear your mask as you enter and you're, among large crowds. And then maybe once you're seated and you're socially distanced, you might be able to take the mask down. We are definitely concerned about, the contact sports and kids being face-to-face, outdoors even, just without a mask. But, we'll continue to monitor that as the days wear on.
And I know it's still maybe early, but, do you think even if you go forward with outdoor sports, will there have to be a limit on audience participation? How many people are allowed in bleachers?
I think that is possible. And the reason I say that is because you only have so many entry and exit points going into a stadium. So as people congregate, and they're very close together in sizable crowds going into a game or leaving a game, that could be, a precarious situation given the current positivity rates.
And first up, homecoming. That's kind of like right around the corner.
Right.
Have you guys thought about that? I know last year the 2020 students didn't even have a homecoming dance, pep rally. They did manage in some schools allow them to have parades. So what about that now?
So we're actually meeting with high school principals next week to talk about homecoming activities and any modifications that might be necessary, or changes in the schedule for homecoming. Is it going to be necessary that we not allow a homecoming dance again this year? Hopefully not, but we are going to err on the side of safety for sure.
Yeah, but it does seem like parades may be allowed.
I think outdoor activities, you're definitely safer at hosting an outdoor activity than anything indoors.
Okay. Oh, it's just some of those things you gotta have these conversations. It's just kind of a necessary evil to have. Something we haven't talked about before, and that's EBT. I've been hearing a lot of discussion about PEBT, which is stands for the pandemic. It's the pretty much the food stamp program. Have you had much discussion on that?
So the PEBT program actually runs like through the federal government's normal feeding programs. The PEBT system, like you mentioned, is for the pandemic. Students can qualify if they attend a CEP school and if they were virtual for any time period during the 2020-2021 school year. So that does not come through our system. That actually is a link to a federal government program, but you do have to have, I know, information about the student, like their student ID number and so on. So
yeah, I was trying to follow it myself, and I was a little unsuccessful at
Yeah.
learning more about that. So it's really something that the federal government handles, and it's not necessarily through the school. But what
Right.
about free and reduced lunch? I mean, have
We
you?
we are a CEP district, so all of our kids eat breakfast and lunch free.
Okay.
Every
Okay.
student. So that's one of the advantages for CEP when it connects to the PEBT program, because we are a CEP district.
Okay. Something we didn't talk about really quickly, the summer enrichment program was the first time it happened. I hear it was just a lot of kids participated. So how was it?
Yeah, it was really great.
Okay.
We really enjoyed it. Like we even had comments about how much fun the kids had, and we have teachers who are already signed up for next
Come
summer.
on.
So we're hoping to be bigger and better next summer.
I love it. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Teresa Bagwell, Superintendent of St. Mary Parish Schools, and we'll see you guys next time. But before we go, make sure to subscribe to us on Facebook. We're KWBJ TV 22, and also on YouTube, KWBJ Live. Talk to you guys next time.